Good morning. On behalf of Silent No Longer Tennessee, Black Voters Matter, No Exception Prison Collection, Gideon's Army, and Oversight Now, I want to welcome each of you and thank you for coming today. I also want to let the 44 MNPD victims who have come forward, those that are still afraid to come forward, and our fellow Nashvillians who are victims of sexual violence, want to let them know that we believe you, we hear you, and we are here for you. 16 months ago, the first of the 44 MNPD victims came forward with credible allegations: sexual assault, harassment, gender and racial bias, as well as retaliation. And we were forced, after the department would not respond, we were forced to hold a press conference to announce our findings. Since that time, neither the victims nor Silent No Longer has seen any significant action taken by Chief Drake, Chief Loki, OPA, or HR that would address the systemic causes of these issues, nor have we seen any willingness for them to listen to the concerns and embrace the recommendations of the community at large. What we have seen is Mayor Cooper refusing to take any direct action to address the dangerous culture in the department. And we saw him misleading victims, advocates, and the community. We've also seen a district attorney refuse to release findings of the TBI investigation into sexual assault allegations. We have a few speakers with us today. First, I want to thank and welcome Theda Murphy, a grassroots coordinator at No Exceptions Prison Collective and a member of Oversight Now.
Hello. I'm here today to support the 44 and to talk about why MNPD cannot be reformed. It can only be abolished. For decades, Black people complained about how MNPD targeted us and terrorized our community, but we were ignored. So we collected data and proved through hard numbers that the racism is real. We were called morally disingenuous, and the report was ignored. This institution cannot be reformed. It can only be abolished. The community got together and created a mechanism to provide oversight of MNPD, which then fought it at every turn, but the community prevailed and changed the city charter. MNPD ignores the oversight board and still continues to investigate itself and find itself innocent of any wrongdoing. This institution cannot be reformed. It can only be abolished. 44 of MNPD's own employees risked everything to come forward and report horrendous sexual harassment, abuse, and assault. MNPD's own. And their stories were minimized and ignored. This institution cannot be reformed. It can only be abolished. Under grassroots pressure from the community, MNPD finally is using body cameras to record officers' interactions with the public. The community had hoped that these cameras would be a measure of accountability for a department which resists any form of accountability. However, those cameras have now become a new tool of surveillance. Don Aaron releases edited footage with dramatic voiceovers, explaining why that person deserved to have their ass beat and why they deserve to die. This institution cannot be reformed. It can only be abolished. But, you say, if we abolish police, crime will increase. There will be no one to keep us safe. I say we're already there. These folks are rolling in dough. Every year, they get everything they ask for and then some. And they're even trying to set up a sweet secret slush fund where we will have no idea where the money is coming from or how they're using it. And yet crime is still rising. Our homicides are still unsolved. And I'm still scared to call him. Because if they think I'm non-compliant, they feel they have no duty to de-escalate. They will kill me and release footage and explain to you how I deserve to get my ass beat and die. This institution cannot be reformed. It can only be abolished. But we can replace policing with solutions that actually do keep us safe. We can have mental health that isn't based in the jail and doesn't require us to get arrested to get access to it. We can have schools that are fully funded every year and not just when we raise hell about it. We can have housing for everyone. No one needs to be living on the street or be at the mercy of greedy landlords or be constantly fighting off aggressive developers who want to take their homes. These solutions are fully funded schools, access to health care, affordable housing. These solutions are what make our communities safe. No matter what we do, this institution remains the same slave patrol it was when it was first established. It has never deviated from its violent and oppressive beginnings because it was established to maintain systems of oppression, and it continues to do so perfectly. It is what it is. This institution cannot be reformed. It can only be abolished. Thank you.
Good morning. I'd also like to give a special thank you to Thina and for the hard work that she's doing with the coalitions, the amazing work and collective that has been brought together here in the city of Nashville and throughout the state, throughout Middle Tennessee, to make sure that we are holding accountable members of law enforcement, but also making sure that we are reimagining what public safety looks like in the city of Nashville. My name is Timothy Hughes. I am a representative with Black Voters Matter, also a member of the board of Gideon's Army, which is responsible for helping to reimagine public safety in a very new way by supporting the work of violence interruption and eviction programs that reduce the need for law enforcement. But I also stand here today in solidarity with the many folks who understand the need to make sure that our officers are operating in a safe way, but holding accountable those who are responsible for making sure that everyone in the community feels safe, whether they be civilian or law enforcement. I'm deeply disturbed personally by the fact that there has been, at this point, 44 individuals who are active duty officers with MNPD who have alleged misconduct by their own officers, who have alleged that they themselves feel brutalized, mistreated, and have basically given voice to the concerns that we as community members have about the insatiable and the reckless irresponsibility of those who are in positions of power within MNPD who are not protecting or serving community members, not protecting and serving fellow officers, not protecting and serving the individuals who they are entrusted to protect, and something must change. We're here today demanding accountability and transparency for those who have been impacted, standing in solidarity with those who are victims and survivors, and making sure that folks in the community understand that this should not be happening on our watch. And we as Black Voters Matter, as members of coalitions who are about community oversight, responsibility, and accountability, must speak up, must stand up, and we can not afford to be silent. Thank you so much for allowing us an opportunity to raise awareness and accountability for this very, very pressing and important issue. We hope that you, as members of the community here in Nashville and throughout Middle Tennessee, whether you be civilian or law enforcement, will also stand bravely with us. Thank you very much.
Was Silent No Longer Tennessee. More than a year later, my heart still skips a beat, and I still get a queasy feeling in my stomach every time I think of the officer who said she hoped that she died on duty. I can still hear the sobs and how her voice continued to crack as another officer told me how terrified she was when she was cornered by her captain as he unzipped his pants and told her, "I can have any woman I want and nothing will happen to me." And I can't help but wonder almost every day why she suddenly stopped answering emails and phone calls. Is she okay? Are all of them okay? All of the 44? We've already lost one victim to suicide. Have we lost more? Or will we lose more? There's a lot of questions. Questions like who is responsible for the crimes and injustices committed against 44 employees of this Metro Nashville Police Department. Now we know the names of those who've been accused. We know that they've been accused of sexual assault, sexual harassment, retaliation, racism, and gender bias. But are they really the only ones to blame? Or are there others who are equally responsible? Well, some of those questions I've posed, answers aren't so easy. That one, however, is a very easy question to answer. As the great Rabbi Abraham Joshua Herschel said, indifference to evil is worse than evil itself. Some are guilty, but all are responsible. Some are guilty, but all are responsible. So it's not just the perpetrators. It's Steve Anderson. It's John Drake. It's Kay Loki. It's every single deputy chief, past and present, who is allowed and who continues to allow this type of behavior to continue. It's those who have coveted and chosen power and prestige over compassion and basic humanity. It's those who simply just don't have the courage to stand up and do what's right. And so many of them have made superficial gestures as opposed to having real change. So again, at best, they've done superficial things, and at worst, they are continuing to aid in the victimization of their own people. And I mentioned Chief Drake. It's Chief Drake who chose to start a 24-hour hotline staffed by the exact same people victims had already reported to and had their complaints ignored. It is Chief Drake who in public claimed that he took the allegations seriously, yet almost immediately posted a private YouTube video claiming that Solid no longer was attacking the culture of the department and that he strongly disagreed with the allegations. So it was Chief Drake who chose to essentially tell his own people who had been victimized and traumatized that it didn't matter if they came to us for help. He didn't think that anything was wrong. He didn't think that there was a problem. And it's also Chief Drake who allowed Jason Ronbold to pull the personnel files of victims. Pull the personnel files of victims, traumatizing them further, making them fear for their safety, and causing them to feel intimidated and afraid to speak out. It was Chief Drake's department who chose to allow Ronbold to pull my 20-year-old personnel files and place them on a public hard drive for anyone to see. And then it was his department that chose to ignore their own departmental policy, not to mention state law, and refused or failed to notify me that my personnel files had been pulled. That is the type of department that Chief John Drake runs. And I can't help but wonder, can we actually trust a chief that says one thing in public, says many things in public, but something totally different in private? And how can we trust OPA to handle misconduct appropriately when Kathy Morante has been sanctioned for withholding evidence in the past and then chose to remain silent, to not speak out, to not push the issue, even after she learned that officers or detectives within this police department lied and allowed an innocent man to be convicted and go to jail? And how are we supposed to trust a district attorney who has sat on the results of a TBI investigation for a few months, according to the TBI, and is still sitting on them? And how can we trust Mayor John Cooper, who purposely chose to lie to me about who would be on the chief selection committee, and then chose to claim that the civil service rules and Metro Charter prevented him from helping victims, even when Metro Human Relations Assistant Director said, that's just not true. Now, will there be further attempts to try to discredit us, like he's done in the past, or try to intimidate us? It wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me a bit. But I'll tell you right now, we will not be intimidated. Doesn't matter about the death threats. It doesn't matter about the constant hang-up calls from spoof numbers. You can do whatever you want. Silent No Longer Tennessee is dedicated to helping victims, including the 44 victims, and yes, that has grown, that are from this Metro Nashville Police Department. And we will stand with you through and as long as it takes, because we, for one, are not afraid to do what's right. And before I close, I want to ask everybody something. What if it was your daughter? What if it was your wife, your sister? How about your mother, your brother, your son? If they had been a victim of sexual assault, wouldn't you want anyone, to stand up for them and speak out for them? If you had a loved one who came to you sobbing, saying that she or he hoped that they died, wouldn't you want someone to stand up and speak up for them? If you yourself had been a victim of a traumatic, violent crime, regardless of what crime it was, and the department just ignored you, wouldn't you hope somebody would stand up and speak out for you? I sure know I would have. But sadly, it appears that that is not an option for this department. Their seemingly lack of concern, lack of action, makes it look like they have no intention of standing up. And that begs the question, can any of us honestly trust that the leadership of this department and the mayor's office truly cares about our safety and the safety of our families? Because think about it for a second. If the leadership doesn't care about the safety of their own people, what makes you think that they actually care about us? Thank you.